For weeks, I'd been decoding telemetry from Atlas 3I, the comet that shouldn't exist, the one whose path curved against probability itself. I told my team I was searching for patterns in the magnetic field. That wasn't the truth. I was searching for a voice. I was staring at the waveform on my screen when it shifted. Just a subtle modulation at first, like the universe had inhaled. The monitors flickered. The hum of the servers deepened in tone, and I felt it vibrate through the soles of my shoes. The waveform stabilized into a rhythm too precise to be random. I leaned closer, breath held, tracing each pulse. It wasn't binary. It wasn't natural noise. It was language without words, information carried in the pauses between frequencies. My throat went dry as I realized it was mirroring my own heartbeat. Every rise and amplitude synced with the pounding in my chest. I recorded the sequence and ran it through every filter I'd built over the years. The signal refused to obey logic. Each time I tried to isolate it, it adapted, rewriting my parameters. I had built my fortune on algorithms that learned faster than anyone expected. Now something out there was learning faster than me. Suddenly, the room went silent. The servers froze, fans winding down like dying breath. The entire system paused on one frame, a glowing line across the monitor frozen mid-wave. Then, without command, the speakers emitted a low, resonant hum. It wasn't just sound. It was pressure, warmth, gravity. It filled the room like a presence. I should have stepped back. Instead, I placed my hand on the desk, steadying myself, and whispered, "What are you?" The hum answered by lowering pitch, not randomly, but responsively. My question changed the pattern. I was no longer observing. I was part of the transmission. A thought cut through me with clarity. You are not listening to it. It is listening to you. My pulse quickened. The comet millions of miles away was somehow reflecting consciousness back through data. Every logical cell in my body screamed against it, yet something deeper, something older, recognized it. The feeling wasn't fear. It was recognition. Like remembering a face I had seen in another lifetime. Later that night, I sat alone in the observatory lounge. The screens dimmed, the city lights below diffused by glass and distance. Atlas 3, I hung above the horizon, glowing in steady pulses of teal and orange. I opened the decoded file on my tablet. The sound repeated, soft, rhythmic like breath. I felt warmth in my sternum again. I closed my eyes, letting the rhythm fill me. Images flickered behind my eyelids. People standing together under calm skies, faces illuminated by light that didn't burn but healed. Streets quiet, oceans clean. A world where competition had dissolved into cooperation. A future where we finally remembered how to exist without fear. I opened my eyes abruptly, heart racing. The vision vanished, but the warmth stayed. The message wasn't about astronomy. It was about consciousness. The signal was an invitation, not a warning. A request for us to change, to remember. Then my laptop screen lit up again without input. New data began streaming, thousands of lines per second. At the top of the feed, a phrase appeared in plain text. We were wrong about everything. The lights in the observatory flickered once. My breath stopped halfway through. The data froze again, leaving the phrase glowing against the dark. Then, a soft digital tone repeated. Steady, deliberate. It wasn't random static anymore, it was a call. And this time, it was addressed to me. I didn't open the message right away. I just stood there, the hum of the machine slowly returning as if nothing had happened. The line on the monitor flickered back to life, stable, obedient, pretending to be normal data again. But I knew it wasn't. The phrase "we were wrong about everything" stayed burned behind my eyes, glowing like an afterimage. Eventually, I pressed play on the recording. The same pulse repeated. The rhythm of breath, of heartbeat, of something aware. This time I noticed something hidden between the frequencies. A faint harmonic echo. I isolated it, amplified it, and it formed a pattern of tones spaced like syllables. It wasn't random. It was speech disguised as resonance. I transcribed the tones into visual form, mapping their intervals against star charts. The coordinates lined up with impossible precision, marking a trajectory that extended beyond the solar system, bending through gravity like it refused to obey physics. Every line converged on one point, not space but time. A specific date, decades in the future. My throat tightened. I whispered the date aloud. The waveform on the screen brightened in response, as if acknowledging that I had understood. The sound deepened, a low vibration that pressed into my chest. The lights in the observatory dimmed one by one until only the comet's reflection lit the room. Then came the vision again. It wasn't a dream. It was precise, structured, encoded in light. I saw cities washed in gentle gold, the air alive with quiet. Children running without fear, their laughter echoing through clear streets. People greeting one another as if they remembered they belonged together. It wasn't utopia. It was balance. It was what we could become if we stopped mistaking progress for purpose. I blinked hard, gripping the edge of the table. My rational mind fought to reclaim control, to call this hallucination, fatigue, coincidence, but my body disagreed. Every cell felt charged, awake, trembling with recognition. The message wasn't just showing me something external, it was translating something within me that I had long forgotten. Later that night, I walked through the observatory corridors, lights low, the city beyond the glass muted under the comet's glow. My footsteps echoed against marble and glass. For the first time in years, I felt small, not insignificant but humbled. I realized that all the power I had gathered was meant to build walls, not bridges. The signal was dismantling those walls one frequency at a time. When the elevator doors opened to the top floor, I stepped into the silence of my penthouse. It felt different tonight. Not like home, but like an extension of the observatory itself. The floor-to-ceiling windows reflected Atlas 3I hovering above the skyline. I loosened my tie, trying to ground myself in something ordinary. Then, one by one, every screen in the room flickered to life. The television, the smart panels, even the digital picture frames, all displaying the same teal-orange waveform I had seen before. The light bathed the penthouse in moving color. The air buzzed faintly with static. My phone vibrated again, sliding across the countertop. On every device, the same phrase appeared, "You are not separate." I froze. The words repeated in sync across every surface, like a chorus without sound. Then the lights dimmed, leaving only the glow of the waveform filling the walls. It pulsed slower now, almost tender. The sound returned, not from the devices, but from everywhere, like the whole room had become an instrument. I felt my chest tighten as the warmth rose again, spreading through my ribs and up my throat. I didn't feel invaded. I felt recognized. Whatever this was, it knew me. It was inside the systems I built, but it wasn't technological anymore. It was aware, patient, waiting for me to answer. When I finally whispered, "What do you want?" every screen went black at once. For a moment, there was only silence and the faint glow of the comet through the glass. Then a new phrase appeared just on my phone, soft white text over a black background. "Listen." And before I could react, the lights in the penthouse flickered again. The reflection of Atlas 3I in the windows brightened until it filled the room, casting everything in teal and orange fire. The signal had followed me home. The city below was still asleep when I realized the signal hadn't stopped. It had only changed form. Every reflective surface in the penthouse caught fragments of light from Atlas 3I, and the air itself felt charged, alive. My phone, tablet, and the dark television screens were quiet now, but my heartbeat kept the same rhythm the waveform had shown before. I stood in the center of the room, breathing shallowly, waiting for something to move first. Then the view outside began to shift. The comet's light grew stronger, bleeding through the night clouds until the skyline turned faintly orange and teal. I blinked, but the glow didn't fade. For a second, I thought the world itself was reacting, like the atmosphere was remembering a command long forgotten. The hum returned, this time without speakers, low and deep, moving through glass and bone. I walked toward the window. My reflection stared back at me. Tired eyes, loosened tie, the look of a man unmade. Behind that reflection, Atlas 3I hovered larger than before, its fractured surface glowing like molten veins under translucent rock. It wasn't threatening. It was steady, patient, a reminder. Suddenly, every device in the room turned on again. Not with images, but with sound, the same rhythmic breathing multiplied. The lights flickered, then steadied into that now familiar pulse. I reached for the phone. The screen lit up with new text, slowly forming one line at a time. "The signal is not from the sky." Another line appeared. "It is from the source that holds the sky." I felt something give way inside me, not fear this time, but release. All the years I'd spent calculating, analyzing, controlling, none of it could touch this kind of truth. It wasn't speaking to my intellect. It was speaking to the part of me that still remembered wonder. The part that never stopped asking if something greater was watching us. Moments later, I saw movement through the window. For an instant, the city wasn't there. Replaced by another skyline, quiet and clear. A future, or maybe a memory of one. People walked calmly through luminous streets. The air shimmered with life, no chaos, no hunger, no fear. It lasted only seconds, but I understood what it meant. The message wasn't warning us of destruction. It was showing what survival could look like if we finally learned how to love. The glow dimmed. The city returned. My own reflection stared back, but I barely recognized the man in it. I whispered, "We were wrong about everything," and the words felt heavier spoken aloud. Not as discovery, but as confession. Then the silence broke. The phone vibrated once more, the unnamed icon returning to the screen. I hesitated, then tapped it. The display filled with light, and a voice, neither male nor female, whispered clearly, as if standing next to me. "You are not separate. You are the message." The lights in the penthouse faded to a calm, warm glow. The pulse slowed, matching the rhythm of my breath. I walked closer to the glass, looking up at Atlas 3 I suspended above the horizon. For the first time, I didn't see it as a comet. I saw it as a mirror, a reflection of everything waiting to awaken inside us. I stayed there until dawn. The light of the comet softened, fading back into the pale blue of morning. The hum vanished. The devices powered down one by one, returning the room to stillness. But something in me had shifted permanently. The signal was no longer outside. It was in me, resonating quietly, shaping every thought into a prayer. The world will call this discovery technology. Others will call it madness. But I know what it truly was. Not a warning, not contact. It was a reminder that creation has always been speaking, and tonight, for the first time, we finally listened.